So, we have another Legendary Drops video. Guys, I think it's finally over. And I think this is about live service games, but I'm not 100% sure. We will see.
I can't believe nobody has noticed this yet. Maybe they have, they just haven't put all the pieces together yet. But after watching all of these live service games that we've just seen completely just wither and die and billions just completely wasted, I think it's finally over, guys. Seriously. After watching all the game announcements that we had seen over the past couple of months, I realized that they were almost entirely devoid of live service games outside of the notorious few that we see every single year. Call me crazy, but I think that these guys have given up. Not
With these guys, he means the investors. Let's check some numbers. Let's check some numbers. How's Marathon do? Ow. That's not good. How about Destiny 2? That looks fine. That looks compared to Marathon. Arc Raiders. Oh. How about the past 3 months? Oh. 1 month. Oh. 1 week. Even in 1 week it's going lower. Oh, Jesus. How about... Does Counter-Strike count? I don't think so. So how about, what are live service games? Actually, what are live service games? War Thunder would be one. How about War Thunder? War Thunder is doing... It's doing fine. I mean, we already look at Steam numbers, right? All-time peak 3 months ago. It came out 12... Oh. Oh, what happened here? War Thunder looks okay-ish. 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 6 years. I think War Thunder does okay. It seemingly does fine. How about Battlefield? Battlefield 6. How does this... Okay. How about... Oh. 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 Ow. Oh, this is bad. This is literally worse than Arc Raiders, because Arc Raiders didn't get that high. Arc Raiders still is bad, and it's going further down. Not good. Okay, what else would we have? Oh, how about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I guess? How's this do? Oh. This thing was never alive. For a Call of Duty game to peak at 42,000 on Steam? Let's see. Call of Duty, whatever. We go with Black Ops 2, I guess. Oh. Oh. Call of Duty. The thing is, I have no idea what game came out. That's a huge problem for me. 1 year ago. Max. I don't think this looks good. Oh my god. Call of Duty Warzone? Warzone. How is this? Oh. Oh, why is this? Oh. What? Last record date? When did it come out? Release date? 22? Is that thing not going anymore? What's going on? App type. Deals. What? Yeah, that's bad. I would say all this stuff is bad. Oh, well, how about Path of Exile 2? Max. Looks fine. With every season, you have a peak. And the thing is, they actually have 6 months. Do you see this? I think these are weekend peaks. It's actually doing better than before. People left the game way more often, and it peaked way higher than most of the other stuff. 421, yeah. See? Since release, it wasn't this high. This game just does fine. Because it's not a typical, live service game. I mean, it's a live service game. But it's a seasonal live service game, and everyone knows that it is. So it has literally nothing in it that wants you to log in every day. Which burns out the people. Which this game doesn't do. Okay. Back to the video.
All of it, obviously. I mean, there's still plenty of live service games that are out today that are still doing just fine. They're great live service games that you could be playing. Many of you guys are probably playing right now, and we're going to be talking about some of those to be able to contrast the good with the bad. But the live service, or the version of live service that these guys have been trying to chase over the past 10 years.
You should have looked at Marvel Rivals, right?
The idea that every single player is going to be a cash register and these guys are only one battle pass away from printing money, I think that is dead. It's done. It's gone and buried at this point. And it's their fault. They're the ones that 100%. Did this. We don't have anything to do with it outside of just not playing those games in this case. But these guys had a good thing, but they just couldn't get enough. No, instead, they had to strangle that golden goose for everything it was worth.
It's called greed, and it's one of the 7 deadly sins. And that's what's going on all over the place. People can't get enough from the money, and then they overextend, and then stuff collapses. Like 2008 with the housing market in America. It all collapsed. Well, it didn't really collapse. It kind of collapsed, but the government went in and prevented the collapse. AKA the working people with the taxes prevented the collapse of the people that did all shady shit.
Just give me another $1. They just had to continue to extend the track on the treadmill to ask for more time and more money, and then flood this market with just so many games. But I think the real damage came from something that nobody was even aware of.
Okay.
These guys got exactly what they wanted. While they definitely, without a doubt, exhausted quite a lot of us, myself included, they trained people to be insatiable, to make it where no amount of content would ever satisfy them. And by doing that, they essentially put the developers on a treadmill.
Of course.
Now this entire industry is getting skinny. We have seen a massive resurgence and focus into single-player games with stuff like Crimson Desert, Resident Evil 9.
Oh yeah, I think I will actually get the second Stellar Blade game. For several reasons. One is, attractive character. Number 2 is not Sony. Number 3, game seems to be good.
Pragmata. Hell, even Rockstar is out here having the confidence to invest over $1 billion into what is still at its core a single-player game with Grand Theft Auto 6. So imagine my surprise when I hop online and I find out that after going 1-12 with live service games, having the most high-profile live service failure in history and shutting...
Let me guess. Sony doubles down. Great freeze frame. They announce another live service game.
Down Destiny 2, PlayStation has somehow confirmed that they plan to revitalize the market with more live service games because they...
I told you. More money down the drain that will achieve nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They believe that they are the future. And I thought that my first reaction would be, how have you not learned your lesson yet? But honestly, it just felt tone deaf because we just don't really hear that much about live service anymore. Not like we used to. It's kind of just become an afterthought, which got me thinking live service is in a really weird place right now. Nearly every single live service game that comes to market either dies immediately or gets filtered down to a modest audience. Entrenched live service games that we once thought were invincible are now starting to lose their players. Some games have remained unchanged, and then somehow at the exact same time, we have Destiny 2 that just fell out of active development, but it's also reaching the healthiest place that it's been in for almost 2 years. And
that's crazy, isn't it? The most players it had in 2 years. That's so crazy to me. And why? Why would you go and play a game that's about to be shut down? Why? Just leave and be sad of all the time and money you have wasted.
Brought me to a realization. The version of live service, the version of a successful live service game that we want is still very much alive. The version the industry wants is effectively dead.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to say that live...
Oh, yeah. Path of Exile 1 and 2, very alive. What else? Maybe Marvel Rivals. I'm not so sure about Arc Raiders, at least not the Western one. I have heard that the Chinese version of Arc Raiders, which is called Arc Hunters, is really good. Which means it's already better than the Western version, which is mediocre at this point.
Service is flat out dead because that really wouldn't be accurate to say. Plenty of these games are still doing fine. Grand Theft Auto Online still dominates. Counter-Strike 2 and Dota 2 are still massive. Fortnite is not going anywhere anytime soon. And we're also seeing games like Path of Exile 2, Dead by Day.
But Fortnite still has not made a profit. Remember, they made over $42 billion with Fortnite. No profit. Just so you know.
Daylight and Warframe grow, break records, or just keep raising their floor year after year. The most successful live service games that we're seeing right now are either maintaining, slightly declining, or growing slowly over time. Not explosively, methodically, incrementally, brick by brick in most cases. But the one thing that almost all these games also have in common is time. If you guys actually go down the list of the biggest live service games that are out right now, nearly every single one of them came out between 2012 in 2017, with only really a few outliers. Path of Exile 2 being one of them, but that's really just an extension of their previous game, which is still killing it even today. The ones that came out after that, for the most part, man, it is a graveyard. I took the time to really look into this, and honestly...
Yeah, why would you play those games? They aren't good. That's one major reason. These games are not that good. For example, Highguard. It wasn't that good. I'd rather go and play the original Unreal Tournament on someone's private server with people or against bots. I literally played that game against bots all alone back in the day. And it was fun. It was really fun. And then you see all the multiplayer games of today, and they're all whatever, which is a huge problem, a huge problem, in my opinion.
Man, I think the numbers would shock a lot of people. The estimate is not going to be completely bulletproof because I'm also going to be counting in games that are considered anything live service, so whether that's a gacha game or a first-person shooter, but I found that roughly 160 live service games are either on live support, actively failing, canceled, or completely dead just from the past 5 years.
Yeah, I literally made a video about it. Half of the live service games that came out since 2024 have failed. Half of them. Half of all live service games, of which I could find any information about. That's also a thing. I have to find information, and that's mostly on consoles and PC. Phone is kind of not that bad, but PC and console, yeah, it's really bad.
And most of them are dead. We're talking about billions of dollars being lit on fire, and most of these games weren't even high-profile failures. Hell, most of you guys wouldn't even know what half of these games even were. Yeah. Spellcaster Chronicles from Quantic Dream Labs,
which actually looked like a good game, or at least something that I would try out. I've seen actually him doing a video about this, when I remember correctly, and I have never heard about this game until I saw the video, and it at least partly looked like a fun game, but it also was a 3v3 MOBA-like PvP games, and in 3D, right? And it was like, yeah, okay, looks okay. I would have tried, but I didn't know about it, so whatever. But yeah, that's one of those cases. It came out, no one knew about it, and then it was gone. Why? Why is that even a thing? How can you bring out a game without zero marketing? No, how can you bring out a game with zero marketing? Yeah, man, my language.
Last flag from the band Imagine
language.
Dragons for whatever reason. Wildgate got shut down the other day, and I had never even heard of it. And yeah, it's going to be easy to point out some of the individual problems with each one of these games: bad marketing, bad concept, terrible character design, whatever it might be. And
by the way, there was last year is a game came out that was named Splitgate 2 or Splitgate something. Also, of course, live service game, and that game failed spectacularly. And then guess what? This year they brought out a new game, which in my opinion actually looks kind of good, but I don't trust the company. I don't trust the developers. So I'm not going to spend $15 on a multiplayer game from a company that I don't trust. That's like giving money to Blizzard again. I'm not going to do that. Or EA. Yeah, no way. No way I'm giving money to EA. Fuck that company.
some of that stuff is true and well worth calling out when it is, but part of this is honestly just saturation. Over 19,000 games released on Steam alone in 2025. It's not exactly surprising that some of these games just flat out disappear. A 2025 survey showed that 60% of players only buy 1 or 2 games a year, and only 14% actually buy once a month. That's 12 out of 19,000 games for the people that are buying the most games. That is like a 0.06% odds. You have better odds pulling a 5-star in a gacha game than you do getting somebody to play yours. And live service only makes that problem even worse because these games aren't just fighting for a single sale. They're fighting for a routine, time, attention, habit.
Exactly.
There's only so much of that to be able to go around.
And that's also one reason why I don't play War Thunder anymore. War Thunder, oh yeah, log in every day or you don't get your stuff. Oh, great. Why would I do that? Why would I do that? That's horrible game design. It's horrible. I'd rather play Arc Raiders. I play that game once per week and I get everything done that I need to do. Fantastic. Awesome.
In every single new live service game that enters into the market is just lowering that ceiling for everybody else. This has always been my biggest criticism against PlayStation wanting to release 12 live service games in just 3 years, because even if those games were good, they would just end up cannibalizing all the other games that they release. So yes, saturation is definitely going to be part of it. There are just too many games, too many live service games, too many demands for people's time, and just not enough players and time.
Yes, because one reason for that is people don't have children. Imagine that. If you have a shrinking population of people that have money, you'll make less money. Oh, who could have guessed?
To be able to go around to give everything a chance, but I don't think that's the whole story. There is something else driving this, and I just don't think that people have realized it yet. I mean, look at the 4 most popular live service games that have been released in the past couple of years. You got Helldivers 2, Marvel Rivals, Battlefield 6, and Arc Raiders. Yep. All of them found incredible success early on, and all of them lost 85% or more of their peak within 4 to 6 months. Now, I'm not saying that these games are bad or down and out. Hell, I'm not even saying that their current numbers are necessarily bad, save for Battlefield 6 in this case. Those guys definitely need to pick that up, but it's really hard to ignore a drop-off this massive, especially when these games are supposed to be forever games and they're being made to be temporary almost immediately. I think what's happening is the player bases are lapping these developers. Demand is now outstripping supply, at least contextually, which kind of sounds absurd to say out loud. Because
which is true. I've seen so many content creators that moan about that there's nothing to do in Arc Raiders. Well, if you play several hundred hours per month, yeah, there's nothing to do for you. I play the game once or twice per week. I have plenty to do. Plenty. And now, do I get bored because what I have to do and what I want to do are a lot of times different things? Sure. But still, there's still a lot to do. But my main problem is that they put things in the game and then they took them away again. And it's not even items or anything like that. No, it's they have. I'm for the ones who watch my streams before, you know how often I complain about exactly this: the weather conditions. Those main event conditions for maps. They have put 5 in. How many of these 5 weather conditions run at the same time on all 6 maps? 2. 2. There could be 1 on basically all maps at all the time, but it's 2. And it's basically always the same. For example, Cold Snap is gone. Is gone. Completely gone. They brought that in December. It was great for while the event lasted. Then they took it out, then they brought it back, and then it's gone again. What is this? Why do you... Oh yeah, they literally advertise it. Oh yeah, we are making new weather conditions. It's so awesome. Then they bring them in. They are there for a while, and then they are gone. Why? I've zero understanding why they handle this game the way they do. It makes zero sense to me. Why do you not want your players to have fun? Why? Embark Studios is literally Blizzard. Oh, fun detected. Can't have that.
Because there's just tons of games to play. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of content. And I'll admit to you that I've been brushing it off every single time I hear anybody complain about how these games just simply do not have enough to do. But when you zoom out, these games are getting absolutely devoured. They hit the market, dominate conversation for a few months, fall out of popularity, and then struggle to ever reclaim that first wave of attention. And there's a lot of causes here. Part of it is severe mismanagement. Arc Raiders not handling cheaters, Battlefield giving way too much attention to a battle royale, Marvel Rivals...
Oh, right, the cheater situation for PvP, right. I forgot all about the PvP part of Arc Raiders. Oh yeah, that thing is mishandled massively too, yeah. And it could be so easy, just hire a couple of people that look into cheating allegations there. Just have people say, oh yeah, that one cheated, there's a button, click, and then someone looks into it. So easy, but now, oh, we have checked that detects cheats, and oh, you're disabled and use something to control the game. Oh, you are a cheater. But actual cheaters, they don't get punished. Of course not. Of course not. And man, I'm getting so angry again.
Having algorithmic matchmaking issues, Helldivers 2 running into mismatched audience expectations and technical problems. Part of this is also just social media, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, whatever else. Content creators have the time and, more importantly, have made an entire career out of chewing through these games at an absurd rate. So all the content that you see makes it feel like the game doesn't have enough, and then those creators move on to the next thing, and suddenly the game feels old before most normal players are even done with it. But I think the real issue is that these studios simply just cannot keep up with the appetite anymore. Most of the people that are playing these games are coming from already established live service games with years of content, years of habits, and years of chasing a carrot on a stick. Publishers have spent...
That's a huge thing, yeah. Of course, a brand new game has not as much content as a game that's out for 10 years. Of course not. That's a huge problem. And yeah, that's literally just it. That's just it.
years extending that track more and more aggressively year over year, not only just to keep those players locked in, but also to drain their wallets as much as they could. And it's created this inverse effect. The games have lost their quality because the pace quickened, the monetization became too much to bear, and then players got exhausted and started leaving. But the audience that stayed had its appetite adjusted, even some of the players that had left just the same. This is not some random change in player behavior. This is what the industry spent 10 years trying to train people to do. Yep. So now a lot of these new live service games are waking up to basically the worst audience possible. Hell, every single live service game is. All these audiences are trained to expect endless content, endless rewards, endless updates, and endless reasons to keep logging in, while also still being eyed by the most cynical audiences that have been pushed out of live service games. You have one dejected audience, and you have an audience that's just way too hungry for you to be able to keep up with.
Yes, exactly. That's why all the content creators are complaining that Arc Raiders doesn't get any new content. And if you look at what we got since launch, there literally is almost no content. There's almost no content. We got one new map. Well, actually two. But the first one we got, I think, 2 weeks or 1 month after launch. So, and after that we got five new arcs in a lot of time, and a lot of them you can completely ignore, or are just basically copies of what we had already. It's not as good as it could be, you know, if you take your time to make stuff and then publish it, because they can't take the time and publish things, which is why they switched to 6 months cycles of content, which has no effect on the expeditions, which is completely stupid. They are still every 60 days, which is completely stupid. But I'm not expecting Western studios to be doing intelligent decisions, because I've given up. I basically have given up.
I think that Arc Raiders is probably the game that I noticed this happen the most with. I absolutely love that game. I thought it was incredible. I had so much fun playing it with my friends, but I'm also in the camp of players that gets exhausted by live service games relatively quickly, and I hit a point where I felt like I had done enough, and I simply had just walked away. But as I had walked away, I was still watching people play it, and I started to realize that while Arc Raiders had its issues, its biggest problem was that they just weren't prepared for the kind of popularity that they had received, and they just didn't have enough content to be able to sate the audience that was playing their game, because they were playing it every single day, all the time, every single chance they could get. They didn't have the plans or the infrastructure to be able to capitalize on it, and I'm not even sure that they should even try to do that, because at a certain point...
I say no. Because that would overwhelm the people that don't play like that, which is also a problem. If you make a game for hardcore players, only the hardcore players will play it, which is a problem.
Chasing that kind of audience would almost certainly come at the cost of the updates themselves, because you're trying to push them out faster, which means they're going to be at a lower quality. Looking at their initial roadmap, a new map and an expedition to sink resources into, a couple new enemies and some weather conditions every couple of months or so is not going to be enough to bring people back.
Exactly. You need, just like they are now doing, every couple of months, one massive pack of content, which entertains people for a longer time. Yeah, that's how you do it. Having an log in every day and do all the content, that doesn't work. It's literally a job. Who would want that? I don't.
Or even to keep them playing for very long. Not with the kind of audience that they suddenly had. To be able to keep that initial flame alive, every update would have had to have been more drastic than the last. Effectively a new game every single time they updated the game. Bigger changes to the map, bigger changes to their objectives, crafting, engagements, progression, everything. At that point, you're not supporting the game anymore. You're just feeding a machine.
Yes,
This is
and that's a
completely the
problem.
fault of the industry. These games are being devoured at a record pace. Now, I know this is going to resonate with a lot of you guys, but rewind the clock back a few years, and whether it was fighting games, first-person shooters, hell, even MMOs, even the most successful MMOs that we see today are still basically the same. There's a little bit more pace to their updates, but still, we used to be able to have these games as daily drivers, and we would be completely fine without seeing any content added to these games. Obviously, map
lot of
packs
times,
and
yeah.
expansions would later extend the life of those games, but after that, over time, it just became faster and faster. More money, more content,
Yeah.
more money, more content. And while you're going to end up losing some players along the way, guys like me that just get exhausted by it, eventually that audience is going to start to adapt to those games and the size of those games. And once they do, well, now it's a problem for the industry itself. It's the problem you've created for your own games in a lot of cases.
Yep.
What's happening here is that these games simply just don't have enough content anymore to actually be able to say to anybody. And none of that content is good when they do, or when they are able to fill that need, because they're putting it out so fast that, well, it's not really worth much of anything. And when these games come in and they just flood the market with even more of these games, well, now the players are in a position where they can go and play one of those new games. They can go fill that need somewhere else, and then they might maybe circle back to yours. In most cases, they never do. And the only way that you're going to bring those players back is by raising the bar to an impossible level, and at that point, it's already over. You know, I think back to the days of like World of Warcraft and stuff like that, and this is usually, or not usually, this is actually still today how a lot of these games run. Even Final Fantasy is the same way. Look at how long those games have been going. Their expansions are basically what, every 2 years or something like that. Well, they do have some updates in between there. It's usually staggered out quite a lot. Those games, there's already a lot to do to begin with, but still at the same time, there's something about that slower pace that kept those games alive for as long as they've been alive. And while they've definitely lost popularity over the years, they're still a hell of a lot more healthier than a lot of the games that are already dead and buried at this point.
Yeah.
So, honestly, live service gold rush was the right terminology the entire time. These guys came in,
absolutely.
they dug everything out, they hollowed out the ground, and they have nothing left to fill it with. It was always destined for failure. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy of greed in this case, and it was always going to collapse in on itself. But that doesn't necessarily mean that success doesn't exist in live service. It very much does. And I think that the games that are going to find the most success and the games that are finding the most success aren't the games that are exploding immediately to these massive player numbers and trying to hold on to them. No, it's the ones that start off small and then build themselves out brick by brick. When I look at all the live service games that are still around and a lot of the ones that have come and gone, I think the most successful version of live service isn't the game that explodes to hundreds of thousands of players or even millions of players and then tries to flood them with as much content as possible. It's the games that never aim to be big, start small, build slowly, and then set the right appetite from the beginning. And the best, and honestly, probably the most fascinating...
I 100% agree with that. 100%. I think I had never more fun with games that were kind of smaller in the scope of the audience than with big ones. Like Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, I had a lot of fun with that game. A lot of fun. Battlefield 1, I played it on one weekend, free weekend, and nah. That game was so much of I don't care. It was so meh to me that no. Just no. I still miss playing Blacklight Retribution. My most favorite multiplayer shooter of all time. Man, if that game would come out again on PC, well, a spiritual successor, which I know there's one in development in the UK, but I haven't heard anything new of that in years. So, yeah. It's whatever. I miss that game so much.
Example of all of this is actually Warframe. Now, Warframe is not the most popular game. It has had its moments of wild popularity, but its life is basically the inverse of nearly every live service game in all of existence. Most of these games explode, plateau, and then decline.
Yeah.
Warframe started out modestly, and then for now over a decade, the game has just continued to raise its floor year over year. And it did that by effectively doing the exact opposite of everybody else in the industry. Warframe has updates and expansions, but all that content is completely free. It doesn't expire, and more importantly, it all remains relevant. It has a battle pass, but
I heard differently. That a lot of the mechanics that were introduced back in the day aren't used anymore because they got replaced. But they're still in the game.
Battle Pass is completely free. It has microtransactions for cosmetics, materials, weapons, hell, even the Warframes themselves. You can buy anything you wanted in the game, but all of it, if not most of it, is completely earnable in the game just by playing it. Or if you want to, you can get it through their player-driven economy, which you also get through just by playing the game. The point is that Warframe is almost entirely stripped of FOMO. The carrot isn't on a stick. It's handed to you, and then you choose when you want to eat it or when you want another one. I cannot tell you guys how inviting and comfortable of a feeling that is. It's almost familiar in a way, like single or multiplayer games from like a decade ago, where you still get to share the experience with everybody else, but you get to take it at your own pace. And more importantly, in this case, well, the developers get to take it at their own pace too. Digital Extremes is a very strict whenever it's ready approach to their updates. There's no hard roadmaps, no hard dates that they set. It's just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. They usually have an idea of when they want to get something out, but they don't rush themselves to hit a specific deadline because they recognize that that's unfair to both themselves and the players. And while Warframe has had plenty of issues with updates in the past, and not every single update's going to be a hit, their consistency with aiming for quality over speed and quantity has conditioned their audience to be more patient, more casual, and more excited when new content finally does drop, giving these guys something to actually look forward to.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. How do you communicate to your audience, right? Embark was always, oh yeah, we are giving you new content basically almost every week. Oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. And then it didn't. And everyone was like, oh, okay. And then when they gave us content that it was also, wait, what, that's all? And I mean that literally. They had big reveals and stuff like that. Kind of big reveals, you know. And then the update comes and it's 2 new arc and 1 weather condition. Wait, what? Why? What? That's all? What is this? And I said videos earlier that if they would have put all the stuff they released after, you know, Cold Snap, after the Cold Snap event, if they put everything from there until the release of the map, I don't even remember how the new map is called. If they would have put all that content together into one update, the update would have been received well because of all the content in it, right? But stretching that all that content out over almost 6 months, that's not enough. It's nothing. It's nothing.
I've been playing a lot of Destiny recently after its final update, and now that there isn't a clear future for the game, or even if the future is that it's actually just over, it has honestly been the most fun that I've had with Destiny in a long time. There is so much content to play, and I'm in no rush to complete it. I'm not holding my friends back by not being able to be online every single day, and we're just kind of just having fun with it. And I think a lot of people feel the exact same way. It's why the game, without any new content being added, is averaging the highest player numbers it's seen in almost 2 years. And it makes me think that Destiny should have been a lot more like Warframe, not in a literal sense, but in a sense that the objective should have never been speed, profit, and a strict schedule. It should have been quality, efficiency, and just trying to do something cool.
But you can't get that out of Bungie. I think that's impossible because they don't have the competence.
Had a talk with Asdacross,
which you see with Marathon, and that they had half the people laid off because Marathon,
the biggest content creators for Destiny, and he was talking about how there were all these things that players had asked for, and how Monument of Triumph showed that the company was listening to them, and how hard it was to get certain things greenlit. He was talking about some horror stories from some of the developers, and I came to this realization in that discussion that these teams that are built to optimize for speed and monetization cannot fix the things that players actually need fixed, and they can't add the things that players actually want. Not because the developers don't care, but because the business itself is just not built for it anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, something as simple as setting up a test dump.
I can see that 100%. I think that's one reason why Arc Raiders has no PvE mode, because that would actually bring back players. But I think they are scared to do that because they don't understand that the game that Arc Raiders is today would work with a PvE mode. How do I know? Because I play that game like that. I play Arc Raiders as a PvE game. I avoid PvP. Now when I get shot at, now I shoot back because I can. But still, to me, it's a PvE game. And the game back in the day, that Arc Raiders, where they decided, oh, it doesn't work as a PvE game. That was a completely different game. Remember, that was just rushing to the boss and defeating it. Now, it's a extraction looter shooter. Completely different games. And that's why in today's Arc Raiders, a PvE mode would work. Absolutely, 100%.
He still takes developers, designers, artists, engineers, and sound designers, and also, more importantly, time. And that's all going to cost these guys money. So management is going to ask these guys, well, what kind of return are we going to get on this when we should have these people working on monetizable content instead? And while these companies do understand that goodwill has value, they can't put that on a spreadsheet. So oftentimes they just throw it on the back burner or they just forget about it entirely. And the faster and more aggressive that these games get, well, the faster they fall apart because they no longer have the time to be able to support them properly, maintain their balance, and build things that people actually want to be able to make those players stay, which kind of brings us up to another issue. One of the reasons why these live service games won't slow down even though they need to is because, well, slowing down is antithetical to their own goals. They want player numbers to be as...
Arc Raiders has slowed down. It shows in the player numbers, but I'm somewhat positive that in October, when they bring out the new map and all the content they are working on, that people will come back. I'm somewhat positive about that, but it might also not be the case. We will see. That's literally it. We will see. I just hope it's going to be good and not, not that they make the game even worse than it already is. Because the game has gotten worse since January. Absolutely. Since the end of Cold Snap event, the game has gotten worse.
High and as static as possible. So they want to reach every single player they possibly can while also keeping them on that track forever. And they try to accomplish this. They try to accomplish both. And because they do that, well, it will never work. One of the biggest strengths of games like Warframe or Path of Exile is that they obviously want their games to be popular and they want to make revenue. They need revenue, but they're comfortable with just focusing on the audience that they already have. They don't overextend. And more importantly, well, they are okay with their players leaving and taking a break. Warframe bucks nearly every single modern trend out there. It is such a weird game, but they just fixate on their core audience and what their core audience wants. And while that naturally separates them from wider audiences, the people that do like the game absolutely love it. And that's where a lot of these recent live service games have been going wrong.
For me, I tried Warframe out, and as far as I would say, the only thing that kept me from playing the game is the aesthetics. I don't like the aesthetics. That's my main thing that I don't like about the game. And then because I also was overwhelmed because there's so much content in the game.
Same problem that we've talked about with single player games as well is that a lot of these guys go an ocean wide and an inch deep. They're afraid to just fully lean into one audience because, well, they don't want to lose another audience that they could have had, and maybe they want to get that audience later. Arc Raiders, I think, is probably like the best example of this. They ended up trapped between two audiences. On one side, They had the PvE crowd that honestly just wanted to cooperatively play with other players and be nice with everybody. And on the other hand, they had a hardcore PvP audience that just wanted to shoot on sight. And while they made matchmaking changes to try to appease both sides, ultimately the game itself could never actually support both of those people or both of those kind of players long term, because at a certain point, you kind of have to decide what this game is.
Yeah.
When you build an update around trying to hold on to everyone and reach every single...
To be fair, having the game being PvEVP is fine as long as you don't have the hardcore people that either want all the one thing or the other. And in Arc Raiders, I think there's the majority of people is just one or the other. That's a problem. And you can't satisfy these two groups with how the game is. There has to be a change.
Audience you possibly can, instead of just leaning into the people who actually love what you made, you end up giving your game an identity crisis. And honestly, you make it impossible to support. I think Path of Exile probably has the best approach here. When I interviewed Jonathan Rogers, the head of Grinding Gear Games, he had said that every single time they do an update, it nearly gives the guy a heart attack. But he recognizes, and the whole team recognizes, that players need to take a break. These guys are completely fine with their game tanking for a couple of months. They're not scrambling to keep every single person in the game forever. They have a schedule. They're trying to push their updates when they can, but they're not going to lose their minds over every player who leaves for a few months. And because of that, they just focus.
And that's how you have to make a game like that. Otherwise, you burn out your players and your developers. Both sides will be burned out. And that's not a good thing. That's why Path of Exile 1 and 2 are so successful. If the people want to come back, they come back. If they don't, they don't. And that's fine. That's completely fine. And then you have War Thunder, where they want you to log in every day. Every freaking day.
Focus on making better updates instead of faster ones. They're aiming not to keep every single player, but instead to aim to make an update that brings more people back to the game every single time. And I think that's the right way to do things. This entire version of live service that the industry built around all these massive games that were holding on to these massive player counts forever just isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable for the players, and it's definitely not sustainable for the developers.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The wider the audience they try to reach, the more players they try to hold on to, the less these games actually end up being made for the people that are actually playing them, because, well, you just can't keep that many people forever without eventually breaking the game. So I don't think that live service is completely dead. I just think the version of live service that this industry has been chasing is actually dead. Because while the successful live service is still very much alive, we can see it here today. We can see it out in a ton of different games. The problem is that that kind of live service takes a lot more effort, a lot more time, and a lot more care than a lot of these companies wanted to give. You know, to be honest, I didn't actually take any notice of this until more recently, when I had seen that, like, live service games, or more importantly, like first-person shooters, have just completely fallen out of, like, YouTube algorithms and, like, Twitch and stuff like that. Well, these guys still have, like, a few people that are still watching them, and I think there's still some guys that are, like, you know, Summit and Shroud and Peanut and a few other people that are still getting, you know, big numbers and stuff like that and doing really well. Largely, that space is kind of just dissipated over the years, and it's just not as attractive as it used to be. And I kind of got thinking about it, like, man, like, is live service just completely falling off at this point? You know, I think what all this means is that these developers just need to surrender to the idea that you're just not going to hold on to all these players forever. There's just way too many games.
Of course not.
Way too many games. There's so much for us to be able to do that eventually your player counts are going to fall. And when you struggle and you flail to try to hold on to everybody, the only thing you're going to do is hurt your game.
Yeah,
that's all that's going to happen, because the content itself is just going to end up lacking quality and a legit direction to go in. I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of these games. A lack of identity in a lot of cases. And the other thing is, and this is probably the biggest one, to be honest with you, stop aiming for the masses.
Yeah.
Stop aiming for these massive audiences. Find a niche and then just solo into it as hard as you possibly can. Look at games like, you know, Counter-Strike or Warframe or Path of Exile. These games didn't get huge or didn't get bigger by widening themselves and chasing every single trend under the sun. They're not using extraction shooters. They're not using any of that kind of stuff. They just got better at beating themselves. And because of that, well, the audiences that they already had loved the game and just rave about the game, and eventually they start attracting other people in. That's what happened with me in Path of Exile.
Yeah.
I just could not stop hearing about people telling me how much better it was than Diablo, and eventually I gave the game a shot, and sure enough, it's a lot better than Diablo.
That's not hard.
You know, I'd actually go to say that I think that the wild successes that we've seen with some of these live service games specifically over the past couple of years might actually be to their detriment. It actually might be the worst thing that happens to these guys, because if you start out small and build slow, continuing to build an audience update after update,
Yeah.
well, like, you actually have room to grow in that case.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you've seen with some of these games. I think even like No Man's Sky is a really good example of that. Well, that obviously has like a big comeback story. At the exact same time, they started off small, had a really dedicated core community, and then the game just continued to get bigger and bigger with each update, and how happy the fan base was, and et cetera. It just kind of spread like wildfire in that case. And I think you see that with a lot of these other games. But if you start at the top, well, what's your next destination?
Exactly.
It's definitely not going to be the top. You're going down. And then what ends up happening is you start seeing the dead game paradox kick in.
Oh, yeah.
Where all of a sudden everybody else just starts leaving because they see other people that are leaving. So they don't want to waste their time. They don't want to invest their time in a game they think is probably going to die. So they just pack up their bags and move on to the next one.
Understandable.
I think the picture of what live service or what live service success looks like is completely changed over the years. Or maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's always been the same, but these guys just try to build a completely different one. But this idea that they're going to make this game that's going to like instantly blow up and just churn out millions of dollars every single week, it's just not going to happen anymore. And the version that is successful is slow and steady. I think that's the way to win the race in this case, but that's not what these guys want, because it's not nearly as attractive. You're definitely not going to be able to sell it to shareholders. And honestly, it's probably going to scare a lot of these guys off, which it's actually probably for the best.
Yeah.
Anyway,
absolutely.
tell me what
100%.
you guys think. What do you guys think? What state is your favorite live service game in? Is it doing good? Is it doing bad? Are you a part of one of these games that I mentioned today that are slowly but surely on the rise? I'm happy to be a part of many of their communities. I think they're absolutely fantastic. But anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share
really
the
good
video with your friends. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe.
Family. So, what games, what live service games do I play? Arc Raiders, Path of Exile 1, Path of Exile 2. Path of Exile 1 and 2, they're fine. 2 is growing. Arc Raiders is kind of dying. I mean, I showed you, right? At the moment, 70k people in there. Let's go to Arc Raiders. 24-hour peak, 38,000. Currently playing 17. Yeah. Doesn't look good. Does not look good. But we will see in October. But it's also hard because there will be... Man, there's so much stuff coming out at the end of this year that I will play. Number one, PoE 2 will be completely released. The 1.2 release in December, most likely. So I'm not really gonna do anything else in that month. Well, yeah. So it looks meh. It looks meh. Doesn't look good, right? Okay. And with that, we are at the end of this video. Sadly, live service is not completely dead. Well, luckily, because Path of Exile 2. If you like this video and wanna see more, subscribe and give it a like. And see you next time. Bye bye.